Welcome back to the High School Huddle. Join the huddle yourself and let us know your thoughts by calling our toll-free number at 1-800-897-3678. Don't have time to call? Send us a text at 405-973-8645 or simply tweet us by using the hashtag OKHSHuddle. Now let's get back in the huddle and talk high school sports.
Legacy Wealth Advisory Group. That's who we're presented by here on the High School Huddle, 93.7 FM, KSBI, LegacyWag.com, LegacyWagBenefits.com. Great place for insurance rates. Also great place for business owners to go out there and get some help for your employees. You're busy enough and just let the fine folks at Legacy Wag help you out. Takes the stress off of you so you can concentrate on what you do for day-to-day to make your business successful. And we are here on this chilly.
It's chilly.
It's getting closer to football weather, whatever that is. But Casey Porter, Phil Nichols, Chris Evans with you, and we will now talk Class A football. Of course, we will begin with the Crescent Tigers.
Come on.
Who take down Oklahoma Christian Academy 70-41. The story of this ball game was, well, it's not the story, but 7 touchdowns by one guy is kind of a big deal. But
yeah,
but Crescent trails 14-7, 7-0 and 14-7.
Yeah,
for the first time this year.
Well,
the first time this year.
Yeah, learned a little something about the kids. I mean, they were overcome really that took them a while to get used to the speed of a couple of the kids from OCA.
Dre Hill was good, wasn't he?
Yeah, and then they just played kind of flat. I mean, overall, they didn't make some adjustments defensively, but they got it turned around, and man, oh man, here they come.
And I think we talked about it earlier, and Coach Bales and the job he did at Morrison. I think that game helped playing Morrison, helped them prepare for what they saw because it's similar offense. It's more the wing T at Morrison, but it's still the flex bone there at OCA. But more so than anything, Morrison took it to Crescent early in that game and kind of put them behind the 8 ball and forced them to have to respond. And I think that having happened in that game prepared them for what happened last week against OCA, and they knew how to deal with it. So I think they handled it very well when they got behind, and they knew the type of offense they needed to run to get Hunter Bowers going. The big question is, well, we won't go there, but that they knew exactly they knew exactly what they needed to do offensively to get on the scoreboard and stem the tide from a momentum perspective, and get back in the game, then take the lead, and then eventually take over.
Yeah.
You're thinking the Hooker Bulldogs might be watching this High School Huddle?
We're big in
the Oklahoma Panhandle. We're huge in the Oklahoma Panhandle. By the way, Hunter Bowers over 300 yards and scored 7 touchdowns.
He was a man. I mean, my new favorite line of yours is "Get off me."
Yeah.
When some kid comes up and tries to tackle him, and Hunter flicks him off.
Because it's so accurate, right?
It is. It's visible, right, with these kids at Crescent. They love the game. They're smart football players. They play as a team. They love their community. I mean, they've got everything going for them right now. Just got everything going for them right now.
Got to win 2 more games.
2 more games to have that parade and all that goes with it. And I'm not changing my. I think they're going to get there.
They're by far the best team.
I think they are.
I say by far they are the best.
They're
team.
the best team, and they're the best team in that class, no doubt.
Win 2 more games, then the debate begins.
Which is?
Who's better, 2017 or 1990?
Oh, we got a couple of weeks away from that.
Boy. That's a whole series we could do, right?
Right now it's 1990.
Got to win 2 games to start that conversation.
To even have that conversation. But Tigers are 4-4 in semifinal games throughout their history. And I had a great point, and it just Crescent, we talked about the University of Oklahoma and outscoring everybody and how you're going to stop. Can you outscore them? That's the same thing we can look at Crescent. Are you going to be able to outscore them?
Yeah.
Well, although throughout the season, Crescent was dominant defensively. They were as dominant defensively as they were offensively. Coming into the playoffs, they're only averaging giving up 11 points, but
you got to outscore them.
Yeah, no doubt. But I think of all the teams that play defense, Crescent has the best defense. Now, it's going to be – obviously, when you look at what OCA was able to do, that's a stressing team to play because when you talk about what Wilson as quarterback was able to do, and then you had the bowling ball and Boo that could run all those power plays up the middle, and then when you have the speed of a kid like Dre Hill, I should say, that can pop those counter plays that we saw to the outside, that is a stressful offense to try to cover. And so, although Crescent did give up 41 points, that was a good performance by them. They did a good job on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, and they still beat the brakes off of.
Yeah, if you're OCA, you score 41, you probably feel like you should win, but you cannot outscore this Crescent offense.
Right.
And what's so great about this Crescent offense is that, yes, they ran for 385 yards, but they threw down and stretched it out with Bowers to Lovett 3 times, caught him in stride 3 times for 3 catches for 3 touchdowns for Lovett, and just,
Obviously, they would line up, in that diamond, and they'd bring man coverage on the outside and then throw it deep. That was awesome, But I'll tell you, another kid that went completely kind of under the radar that had some huge catches was Tristan Rolls.
Yeah.
They would play that off coverage, and then he would just kind of go to the sticks and sit there, and then Bowers would hit him, and he caught them all. And if you remember, Crescent got down early, and they went to throwing the ball, and Tristan Rolls caught it, and the next thing you knew, they scored, and it just kind of settled the game down. So I think an unsung hero of that game was the play of Tristan Rolls. Obviously, he was very busy in the kick game as well.
Yeah.
But I thought he had a fabulous game offensively.
Yeah, and I think, I'm going to go back to Hunter for a second, the Hunter Bowers, quarterback. Yeah, he can just flat. I mean, he's got great touch on his passes. He can really spin the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, he came in that second half, and I mean flat through some darts.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, it was impressive what he could do. We all know he can run kids over, but I mean, he can hurt you with his big arm too. There's no doubt about that.
From a defensive perspective, I know they gave up 41 points, but what won that game from them, that triple option, I said it all week last week during the broadcast. It's dive, then it's quarterback, and then it's pitch. It's triple option offense. And what Crescent did, which is what you exactly have to do, they stopped the dive play.
Yep.
I mean, the dive play was not successful at all for OCA. Now, they got loose maybe once or twice. We talk about as many plays they run. They did a wonderful job in that dive play. Now, Wilson got loose a little bit, and obviously Dre Hill got loose 3 or 4 different times. But it's kind of like, these the air raid teams like Texas Tech, and you always go, well, how did OU beat Texas Tech? They stopped the run.
Right.
So you stop that dive play, and although they're going a couple of big plays outside, they can't stay consistent with it, and then eventually you overtake them, and that's exactly what Crescent did.
So the Crescent Tigers advance to the semifinals. They will take on the Hooker Bulldogs, who are 12-1 on the year.
Very good team.
Went on the road, as we talked about in our first minute, went on the road, took down Hominy 35-18. So no matter what happens, we will have a new Class A state champion.
Yeah.
Yep. Dawson Metcalf, about a 6'4", big old kid on the outside, receiver, good player. Can't remember the kid's name, but number 7's one of those little 5'10", 6-foot slot back type guys that catches all their bubble screens. And they have a big quarterback that will remind you of Hunter Bowers and Yarborough. Big old kid with a big arm. And Coach Yarborough, their offensive coordinator, will line them up anything. And we saw this with Rejoice Christian 2 weeks ago. Anything from 0 personnel, empty backfield, all the way to 32 personnel with 2 fullbacks, 3 guys in the backfield, and 2 tight ends.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at how do you line up against this Hooker offense, good luck, because they are extremely versatile, extremely multiple, and in any one given play back-to-back, they'll go from empty all the way to running power plays up the middle. So it is a Hooker offense that is 100% legit. It'll remind you of kind of the Crescent offense, as versatile and as talented as it is, and it's going to be an absolute showdown.
And just a small amount of film that I've seen them on, and just looking at and researching it seem like they play a little bit of a chip on their shoulder as well.
Yeah, they do.
They have a big, as much as Crescent's rally community, they're doing the same thing up in the Panhandle.
Sure.
So
the community's very excited about it.
They're very excited.
I expect to be a lot of people from both schools there Friday night.
It's going to be a big-time atmosphere.
The big-time atmosphere going to come down to what we kind of call the big 3, and of course I think most of us would add a couple others on there with Portwood and some of those guys, but
Gavin Green.
Yeah, I mean there's just some players out there, but Musel and Buzz and of course Hunter and Portwood. There's just a lot of them that on defense. Part of what hurt them last week, when Hunter was dinged up a little bit. I mean, it hurt him a little bit on offense, obviously, but you could direct snap to Buzz and still be effective. You still had Musel, who I think scored 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter the other night, who can really run the ball well as well.
He was a little bit disappointed, wasn't he?
What's that?
Musel.
What do you mean?
Well, he was trying to find somebody to run over there in the fourth quarter, and they kept ducking away from him, didn't they?
That's true. But everybody remember what Bowers did to that kid at first. They said, no, we're not doing that.
No, thank you.
But it just saw what you would expect to see out of this Crescent team last week. Toughness, stayed together as a team, kept competing, kept playing, kept doing what they do, and they ended up beating the team by 30 points. So
Hookers in the playoffs only Mangum, Ringling, and Hominy. And they've scored 26 points, 23 points, and 35 points. They're going to need they're going to need more than 35, I think, to win that one.
Score 50 to win the game,
or more, unless there's turnovers. The turnovers
and if you look at the points they scored last week against Hominy, they were all big plays.
Yeah,
it wasn't like they don't like last week. OCA had the ability to hand it off to the fullback, run the counter play, then pull it out, the quarterback run it with Wilson. Yeah. They had the ability to go on drives and keep the ball away from Crescent. If you remember in the third quarter, they had a huge time of possession advantage, and you looked up and the game was close. Yeah. The way that Hooker played offense, at least last week against Hominy, they were 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and then all of a sudden big play. So that's not a good recipe for beating Crescent. The best recipe you have, obviously, is what people have tried to do all year, what OCA tried to do, and try to go 3 yards at a time, keep the ball away from Crescent, and play ball control, time of possession type offense. That's not really what Hooker does. So I think that's going to be an interesting facet to it.
It'll be interesting because the Tigers have already taken on a couple teams in the top 5 in Class A football, and again, Hooker's going to be one of those tough teams. And so if the Tigers can advance and move on and win their second state championship, it will be a playoff run of it wasn't just here and here. They would earn their way. But real quickly, we mentioned Morrison losing in overtime at home to Thomas, 37-36. The other big Class A matchup.
Well, you got to give Faye and Custer some credit there too, right?
Thomas Faye Custer. Okay. I apologize. Sorry, Faye. Sorry, Custer. But the other one that everyone I think in Class A, if you talk to the neutral people that would love to see Crescent and Afton in that state championship game, Afton actually got behind Minko. Minko's one of the teams that we talked that could have a chance to win Class A. They're one of the better teams, I should say. Minko jumps out to a 6-0 lead in the first quarter. Afton gets a touchdown extra and 2-point conversion to lead 8-6 at halftime. But then out of the locker room, Afton scores 16, and then it's 24-6, and then eventual score 30-6.
Yeah, and just too much. They run the ball too well.
Yeah, especially their quarterback, Will Amos, 20-yard touchdown run, 49-yard touchdown run, and a 1-yard touchdown run. And so Afton also remains undefeated this season as they put 303 rushing yards and only 33 passing yards. They didn't need the pass but that's the dream matchup if you look at Class A, folks, between Crescent and Afton. We'll see.
Yeah,
what's interesting to me, 7 or 8 years ago, everybody wanted to throw the ball every down, with all these air raids, and it's gone completely full circle. Now they're still in the spread formations, and they're still running, and they're still going at a really high, fast tempo and scoring a lot of points. So it seems similar, but it's gone all the way full cycle to where everybody's not running the ball again. They're scoring the same amount of points because all these defenses are trying to defense the pass, but yet everybody's running.
When's the last time you saw the triple option ran out of the shotgun?
Yeah, never. We saw that Friday.
Last week, and
it works.
It did work.
And it's still. I was talking with Coach Bales about this. The best play in football right now going is that counter play, and we saw it ran for multiple long scores last week.
Yep. Should be a good one. In Alva, Oklahoma, it is Crescent Tigers and Hooker Bulldogs. We will be there for the broadcast. Take our final time out. When we come back, wrap it up. This is the High School Huddle.